I'm going to tell you something I've never said out loud to anyone. For 60 years of my life, I thought something was wrong with me. 60 years. I'd walk into a party, a family gathering, a work happy hour. And within 20 minutes, I was already scanning the room for the exit. Not out of shyness, not out of bad manners. It was something physical, a weight in my chest, an exhaustion that doesn't really have a name. People were laughing, chatting, patting each other on the back. And I was there, present in body, but somewhere else entirely in my soul. I spent decades thinking it was my fault, my flaw. Today I know it wasn't. I was maybe 8, 9 years old. My mom would take me to birthday parties for kids from school. You know the ones, balloons, cake, that overwhelming noise. I'd sit in the corner and just watch. Not because I was sad, not because I didn't want to have fun, but because something deep inside me just couldn't step into that world. It was like trying to tune into a radio frequency that doesn't exist. My mom would come over and whisper, "George, go play with the other kids." I tried. God knows I tried. But I always ended up back in the same corner, watching. My dad said I was antisocial. My teacher said I was too introverted. Like being introverted was some kind of problem that needed fixing. Nobody told me the truth, that I was simply picking up on everything nobody else noticed. The tension between parents sitting around the table, the kid who was faking a smile but was actually miserable, the adult who was drinking a little more than they should. I felt all of it. In my body, in my bones. And at 8 years old, I was already exhausted from feeling so much. I grew up, entered the workforce, and I got really good at pretending. I learned the firm handshake, the eye contact, the smile at the right moment. I learned to survive those end-of-year office parties. 2, 3 hours of noise, small talk, people asking how your family's doing when they don't actually want to know. I endured it. Then I'd get home completely wrecked. My wife, Maria, would ask, "How was it?" And I'd say, "Fine. Tiring." She figured I was a workaholic. That work was burning me out. It wasn't work, it was people. It was the weight of being around that many people at once. It was the noise I was hearing that no one else was hearing. Not the noise in the room, but the emotional noise. One person's anxiety, someone else's barely hidden anger, another person's fakeness. It all came through to me like a radio signal. No filter, no break. I spent my whole life thinking something was wrong with me. I dodged invitations, made up excuses. I've got a headache. I've got something going on. I need to work. The truth was simpler and heavier than that. I just couldn't do it. At 34, I almost lost my marriage because of this. Maria wanted a social life. Friends, dinner parties, group trips, normal stuff that couples do. And I always found a way to ruin it. I'd show up too quiet, leave too early, pull out my phone when I should have been present. She told me one night, I remember it like it was yesterday. She said, "George, I don't know what you want. You don't like being home, but you don't like going out either. You don't like being alone, but you can't stand being around people. So what do you want?" And I had no answer, because I didn't understand it myself. All I knew was that certain people filled me up. Those late-night conversations, deep and real, where nobody was performing anything. And most social situations drained me completely. It wasn't about liking or not liking people. It was about frequency. I operated on a frequency that most social situations just didn't have. It took me another 20 years to understand that. I was 58 when I finally stopped treating myself like I was broken. A friend of mine, Raymond, died of a heart attack. Energetic guy, always surrounded by people, always at the center of everything. The perfect social life I never had. At the funeral, I looked around that room, about 200 people, and I realized half of them barely knew Raymond at all. They came out of obligation, or appearances, or because that's just what you do. And me, the guy who'd spent his whole life ashamed of not being able to stand in rooms like that. I sat next to his widow for 3 hours, in silence, holding her hand. She told me afterward, "George, you were the only one who actually stayed. I didn't do anything. I just stayed." And that was the day I finally understood. What I'd always thought was my defect was actually just my way of being in the world. I can't be around a lot of people because when I am with someone, I'm completely there. No holding back, no filter, no halfway. That's exhausting. It takes a lot out of you. It demands a lot from people who are wired this way. But it's not a flaw. It's just how I was made. I'm 68 now. I have 3 real friends. 3. I don't miss the 200 acquaintances I had, not even a little. I've learned that when you feel everything in a world that feels almost nothing, you need smaller spaces, slower conversations, silences that don't need to be filled. I've learned that saying no to an invitation isn't arrogance, it's survival. I've learned that the loneliness I always felt wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. It was God keeping me quiet enough to actually hear what mattered. And I've learned, this one took the longest, that the people who drifted away from me because I was too intense, too serious, too heavy, they weren't the wrong people. They just weren't ready for the level of honesty I can't help but bring to everything I do. Nobody's to blame for that. It's just frequency. If you're listening to this and you recognize yourself in something I said, that exhaustion around crowds, that drained feeling after socializing, that sense of being physically present but checked out somewhere deep inside, I want you to hear something I never heard when I needed it. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not antisocial. You're not difficult. You're not weird. You just feel what most people have chosen not to feel. And yeah, that comes with a high price tag. I know. I paid that price for 60 years without understanding why. But it also carries a kind of value that most people can't even imagine. Because when you're truly with someone, when the right person is by your side, you are completely, fully there. And that, my friend, is rarer than anything a room full of people could ever offer you. If any of this hit home, tell me in the comments. What was the moment you realized it wasn't a flaw? What was the party, the dinner, the get-together where you looked around and felt like you were on a completely different planet? I read everything.